Hello and welcome to this latest installment of Tones of the Hammer. If you have not been here before, we talk to local musicians, creatives all around Hamilton and the surrounding area to find out a little bit of what's going off and what could be better. And today, I'm very excited for this guest today because here we are in Halo Studios. I'm an audio engineer myself, and I think we're probably going to geek out a little bit. So you might lose us along the way, because we might nerd out on audio gear. But he owns a studio, he's an artist himself. Everybody, welcome Carm. Thank you so much for coming, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is the first time we've met today, but I've seen so much about 410, your studio online, and it looks such a great spot, and we will get into 410. But first, for Carm, anybody that doesn't know you who's watching, tell us a little bit about how did music get started for you, and where did it all begin?
Oh, well, I've been immersed in music since I was a child, mostly through, my parents, originally from music that they were listening to, and my sisters inspired as I was growing older. I started playing guitar when I was in grade 8 and, got into a bunch of bands quickly. And from that point on, just kind of entered the music scene when I was old enough to start playing bars and started writing music as well with a bunch of my buddies from school. So kind of like the evolution of it was sort of like corresponding to as I learned and as I went. But we built a big little fan base, a big little fan base.
Yeah, they're the best kind of fan base.
Yeah, they are. The loyal, that's right. That's Big Little's
the little loyal fan base.
In Hamilton and, my early 20s with a band called The Feels that did very well. We put out 3 records and mostly stayed local, but it was a great band with really dear friends of mine, and evolved from there into a band called Live How You Live, which I started to travel with and tour with that band, and we put out 4 records, and that winded down, and then just kind of. I also play a lot of cover gigs, duo singles, and I started a Pearl Jam tribute band in 2019, which has been a lot of fun. We just we do a lot of traveling with that band, and it's the response is really awesome. People really dig it. I mean, the PJ name is obvious. The brand is there. I was going to say,
I imagine there's a lot of Pearl Jam fans.
Yeah. So it's a great gig and really good guys, great players in the band. So we just have a lot of fun with that, and it's great to meet new people along the way that are just like-minded, that just like the PJ thing, and just like celebrating the music, it's pretty cool.
Totally. And I seen most online. You're a solo artist. What kind of music do you do when it's your own stuff?
Well, I started, doing some solo stuff in between both of those bands back in like 2004 when I was like 24, 25 years old. Singer-songwriter kind of style, but I'm kind of like, my writing's a little bit all over this. Which I mean,
which
kind of
is the
lends
sign of a true songwriter.
Yeah, as well as a producer, right?
Yeah.
Because like I kind of produce a little bit of everything, and so my style is kind of a product of all genres that I love. So I mean, it goes from like kind of mellow stuff to heavy rock stuff. So it's kind of everything in between, even like a lot of reggae feel in there sometimes. Nice. Just from my like Marley inspiration as a young guy. But these days I haven't had a chance to write as much as I'd like to. And I was actually just talking to a friend of mine about this last night in the studio. It's just like, between all the projects I work with and the gigs I do and stuff, when you finally get an hour or two to chill out, dude, it's hard to take that time and go, okay, I'm going to go try and be creative right now and put it to words. But I mean, like, not giving up on myself about it. You give yourself a break as you go, but
you have to,
but you also got to give yourself that push to be like, okay.
Totally. I feel that. I used to, before I moved to Canada, I used to work on cruise ships as a musician. So it used to be like, you'd be playing like 3 sets a day. So you'd be playing for like 2-3 hours a day.
Yep.
And exactly like you said, the last thing you wanted to do after playing for like 3 hours a day or like working the whole day is pick up your guitar and try and be creative after screaming Sweet Caroline to a load of Floridians. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, I totally get it.
Yeah, I relate to that. So you've gone from being a musician to now you own a studio and rehearsal space, 410, right? Yes. And that's in Stony Creek.
It is on the Stony Creek Mountain. It's actually Hannon.
Right, okay. Because I see it looks a beautiful spot.
Thanks, man.
I've not ventured out there yet.
Yeah, I'd love to have you by anytime. Totally. It's out in the country. We're just off of Regional Road 20, which is like basically a main vein that goes all the way out to Niagara Falls, just after a third road. And we've been there since 2002 as a business, but we used to hang out there for years before at a small little room out back that we used to jam and just hang out and, drink beers and have a good time. And eventually it evolved into a business model. But that's kind of all kind of happened at the same time as when I started, performing in town as well. So around 2002, the studio opened. But before that, leading up to it, it was kind of like doing the covers and the original thing with the feels, and the studio was all happening at the same time. And I mean, we weren't as serious about it, I think, in the early going as much as it became, but
it was good to have that creative space, I imagine, to just
exactly,
do stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. At first, it was kind of more of just a space for us to kick around and throw out ideas and have a lot of fun and just be kids, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, it was perfect for that, and it's evolved as it should have over the years. I mean, now we've been there for almost 23 years as Studio 410. So
yeah.
It's been a good run.
It looks a beautiful space. It kind of reminds me of I was looking up a few years ago to go to Blackbird Studios in Nashville, and that's kind of the same thing where you've got facilities kind of all around, and it's kind of like no matter what you want to do on the day, whether it's rehearse as a band or record or whatever, you've got all that kind of space there. So it seems, seems
and
like
the green space is good. We got a big fire pit out back too. That's really, kind of conducive to going kicking back and writing or being creative. Even if you're not feeling it, it's a great spot to go and just become,
And I think that's what a lot of maybe non-creative people kind of misunderstand about that process is sometimes the vibe is just as important as having all the gear, right?
Oh my goodness. The gear doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. If you're not feeling it, it's good to have beautiful spaces.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't mean anything until there's something for it to mean. You know? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally. It looks a great space. So similar to us here at Halo, then, Carm. So what's running a studio in 2024? It's a very different business these days.
Sure
right?
is. Yeah.
And you're the first studio owner kind of audio engineer I've had on here. So how have you seen Hamilton? Compared to maybe like the bigger city, Toronto, have you seen like the recording business change over the years since you started all those years ago?
Since we started in the early 2000s, well, there were a lot more bands. First of all, there was everybody and their brother was in a rock band. In the early 2000s, late 90s, and whether it be original stuff or cover stuff, I mean, it's still an abundant amount in the city, but it was busier. It was busier that way. And I think people, I mean, coming from my generation too, like it wasn't, when we grew up first of all, there weren't as many studios around.
Yeah.
It was like Grand Avenue. And I don't even think there was another one back when we were like 18, 19, that I knew of. And you didn't go there. You know what I mean? Like
it's a bit out of reach. Thing,
So, it was always about, trying. That was at the age where digital just kind of started too. Not to get too far off topic, but relating it to myself, I remember that we were just trying to make demos and doing things on our own to try and get gigs and getting out and playing and playing gigs and cover stuff was fun and important to us then. I found that when I was younger, I was doing a lot of young bands.
Yeah.
I find that I don't see many people under the age of 30 or 40 that are playing in bands.
Yeah.
Very few. I mean, at least at our studio. And when we used to accommodate to many, many of those bands.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm recording somebody today.
Yeah.
Literally today. That called me last week that I haven't seen or spoken to since 2003 that we did their demo. He's like, I was in grade 9 the last time I was in your studio. I'm like, oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
So, and cool that he thought of us to come back. And, but yes, again, that kind of, planting the seeds.
Yeah.
Age.
100%.
So I would say that's probably one of the main things I've noticed is just like, the content is a lot different. People are a little more serious about the business now.
Rather than just just go in and create something and see what comes out.
Even cover stuff, what I mean? Because I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, the $100 a guy thing is driving everybody into the ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still believe that that's a decision for people. So like you can complain about it or you can just, be worth more. And
I think that's a lot of downfall of quite a lot of musicians is sometimes everybody thinks you can make it being a one-trick pony sort of thing, and it's exactly like you say. It's always a choice. It's a total hustle if you want to try and get different either income sources. Everybody's got to earn a living, of course. So
for sure. And I think if you spread yourself kind of thin and you play a lot in and around certain areas, then it's tough to generate a good following, and at that point you're kind of not bringing a lot of value to some of the venues because you're doing so much of it. And I don't mean to sound negative about it that way, but it's just a tougher aspect to create that business relationship with venues where, you know, you deserve to make this amount of money, or you're bringing in,
but essentially, they are. But that's the whole reason they have live music on, or like probably, I don't know, 60% of the reason is to bring people in, right? And keep people in as well. You know
I mean, and I don't think that it's always the venue, the artist's responsibility to fill a room. However, if you're good at what you do and you market well and you're serious about your business, then you should care about all that, and you should be drawing people and you know, and wanting the bars to do very well, because in the end it's always going to bring you back and
and
build
that's
your
what
audience
the
and
scene, right?
Yeah, for sure.
100%. And I imagine, back to the recording side of things, I imagine the whole digital age of like recording equipment coming much more cheaper and accessible to people. It's changed the whole idea of a recording studio. You know, you don't have your 9 to 5 kind of recording studios anymore, right? You know,
no, for sure. I think things are a little bit more specialty now. You know, and people that are, again, like kind of more serious about what they're doing, and or bands that are looking to be professional. And they just know that if they come to you, that they're investing in not only you and your professional experience, but all the tens of thousands of dollars of gear that you've spent money on that they don't have exposure
100%.
to.
And like you say, I think, that's exactly it. Studios have got to have a lot more pull of showing people to the next step, right? So you've got to show that either your mixing room is worth it more, your console's worth it more.
I think it all comes down to what your goal is. If you want to be playing $2,000-$3,000 gigs, then you should be presenting yourself like a $2,000-$3,000 band. And I mean, like, you know, a cell phone video isn't going to get you $2,000.
God, it drives me insane, man.
And at the end of the day, I just think that that's what it comes down to. Although sometimes I feel like some people don't take themselves serious enough, and they get afraid of that bill. But if you look at it in a wider lens, you know, you go and spend $2 or $3 on professional promo, and then you get one gig.
That's $2,000.
You made money back,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, but you have to think that way, and you have to not be afraid of taking those challenges and those risks. And if you do, then you'll never get there. So it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, really, you know. But you got to invest in yourself.
100%. And I think it's where, like you said, people get a bit scared of doing that sometimes.
Even in business. I mean, like, as you know, we just discussed, we just got upgraded our console. And, you know, that was a big move for us, because it's not cheap. And you know, but when you validate the work you've been doing, we've been around for 20 years, and it's like, well, we'd like to do 20 more. So let's stick ourselves out there 100%. And hope for the best, but work for the best, right?
100%. And let's nerd out just for 1 minute then, Carm. So what's the console? Where's it come from? What's its story? Because every console has a story, right?
Yes. This console is a Trident 80B. We had a Neve 55 series. We still have it. It is for sale if anybody's looking for a Neve console, a beautiful console. And basically we were looking to upgrade from the Neve, and it's funny saying upgrading from a Neve.
I know,
But you know, it's a broadcast console and sounds amazing, and we've done a lot of amazing records with it. But in the evolution of our time, we wanted to find something with some character and something that had some pedigree, and something that was gonna last us another X amount of years. So we found that the Trident models were really sticking out to us. So we researched it. My business partner, Adrian Finanza, was really, kind of like all over taking care of that. He did a great job. And we got into conversations with a guy in Brooklyn who bought the console off of Billy Joe and Green Day.
Right, so it's Green Day's console.
So it was Green Day's console for about 5 years. I think they did like the Uno Dos Tres records, and then Radio, what's it called? The one after that one. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. But so 4 records they did. And and it's immaculate. Like they obviously took really great care of it. This guy purchased it off them during COVID. The COVID thing happened. He was like, I'm getting out of the business.
Right. Okay.
Put it up for sale. And we lucked out to pick it up. And we finally commissioned it. It's up and running. And just did my first session with it yesterday, but it's just really well taken care of.
Yeah.
And it really goes a long way when that happens too, right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
You guys know, the maintenance stuff is huge,
Oh,
right?
of course, it keeps us more. I think everybody thinks that a studio, you leave it and you're doing music 80%
You just
of
turn
the
it
time.
on and you just record. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Hell
it.
no.
Yeah, these things are, getting old as well. It's like anything else. You have to keep the maintenance.
Well, the problem for us guys is that the older it is, the better it is, right?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
so it's
100%.
it's such a
But
catch-22.
Yeah, more and more parts get discontinued and stuff, right?
That's right.
And anybody that doesn't know is not an audio person. Each console has its own sound and its own kind of character to it. So that definitely adds to your whole recordings and also to like your reputation as a studio, right? So I imagine, like
Absolutely.
you say, it's
Yeah,
a
you're
good
right.
investment.
And that's one thing that happened. So last week we had a bunch of friends come up and hang out because we wanted to kind of, do some troubleshooting,
Totally,
make sure
yeah.
things were running. And, got a case of beer and some pizzas. It's like, just had some fun with about 7 or 8 guys. And everybody that was in the room was like, there's something about this.
This is it. Yes.
There was, and literally, it wasn't like we were all goofing out together.
Yeah.
Like separately, like the next day, my buddy Zach and reached out and a few people, he's like, there's something a little bit magical going on there, and that there's some, and I agree. I mean, you can't quite put your finger on it yet, and we're still kind of getting used to the whole thing.
Yeah, and it takes time to tune into it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we barely just, started working. So it's, I'm excited to see what's going to come through and who's going to come through and what's going to come of it. Yeah.
Well, we're all, rooting for it to,
Thank you. Yeah.
Carm,
Well, I think this is great camaraderie about Hamilton. I mean, like, I think anybody who knows me well enough. I'm the furthest person from competitive, especially in what you're good at. I think it makes no sense,
right?
If you're too busy worrying about what other people are doing, then you're definitely not doing your best, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes,
what I mean?
Like 100% agree.
And I think it's great that we've got so many outlets in this city now. Like I said, compared to when we were kids, geez, man, like there's at least 5 or 6 local serious studios in the city, and everybody's open and doing their thing. So, hey, man, that's as good as it can be.
Totally. And this is what the whole idea of Tones of the Hammer is all about, Carm, for me. Is like, I said, it's this first time meeting today, and I'm just kind of doing
I feel like I've known you forever, though.
Yeah, I know.
Seeing you online,
good,
and you got a very good character and presence about you. That
it's getting people to understand the accent a lot of the time is the hardest thing. But that's good.
I understand you fine.
That's good. But yeah, that's the whole idea, because I think that whole collaboration side, and it's something I've discovered since coming to Halo, starting here at Halo, is that there's no need to be in competition. There's enough work around, I think, for us all to be working together.
Absolutely. I always talk to even people that are in the studio, like that I work with, that I always kind of recommend moving around and trying new things. I mean, like, obviously I'm not trying to shoot myself in the foot with business wise, because at the end of the day, like, you can't keep people. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
All you can do is be yourself, be your best. If people want to be there, they're going to be there.
And they'll come back, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that there's a lot of growth if I'm being a mentor to people around me, younger people around me, and experiencing other things and being a true value that way. I think that that's an important, item, is to meet other people and find what your boundaries might or might not be. So most people that come to me, not just come in because of the recording, is because I know that I have a knack about getting the best out of people, building a great rapport with people, making them super comfortable, and getting that shit out of them. You know what I mean? And it's really important. And I think that's where I lay most of my importance of. We have a good friend of ours, Tristan, that does a lot of the mixing at the studio. I mix as well, but not as much these days. I'm focusing more on tracking and pulling everybody's talents out and getting all the best of everybody. That moving it over there and like, hey, who's next? Let's go. Like, that's kind of the style of what 410 is right now. Yeah. And but I think that's super important, is to be able to get as much insight and experience from many different people to find out who do you work with best? Where do your strengths come from?
Yeah.
Right.
And it'd be such a shame to keep that all locked up or whatever, just for the sake of worrying someone's going to steal $200 of work from you or something like that.
Yeah, well, I've had artists that come in and have experience with us and go like, man, the last guy I was working with, nobody in the city, I'll be honest with you. But the last guy from somebody from Toronto or some people from out east, it was just like, it was this or it was that, or it was a basement studio. And it was just like, it wasn't as, I guess, uplifting and open as they had even known could be, which is the important thing, is what I'm trying to say, So they were able to kind of, unleash a side of themselves in a part of the process, in the comfort of being their best, rather than having to be their best.
That's
you know what
it.
I mean?
And
Yeah.
again, back to the whole idea of what's expected in a recording studio, what people think goes off. I think half the time, like you said, people think it's 80% music and talent, but even like, you know, a producer or an audio engineer that might know less technically, but kind of knows how to get the artist, you know, because I always think of it as somebody like Chris Stapleton. If you've got that talent of somebody like Chris Stapleton, you just need to put a mic in front of them and they'll do the work for you, sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And that's it. It's all about getting that comfort in a studio,
Yes,
right? And
big
just,
time.
unleashing what's possible.
And I love
basically,
getting
right?
my ass kicked by artists who come in like
Yeah.
that, or just like, you're already a fan.
Yeah,
Before you're even doing any
100%.
work, it's like, yeah, that's super great aspect about being in this business. If you're serious about it, is that, you know, you never stop learning and you never stop meeting people who are super creative and mind blowing to you. And I think that that's the you know, kind of the lifeblood that keeps me interested in this is the constant, like I love people for the most part.
Yes.
And I like to collaborate and work with people.
Yeah.
So having that kind of outlook, there's a search inside of me for others.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I try not to think too much about it, but I know that that's there, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're like, I'm not a closed person.
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that if you can bring people who are opposite of that into your studio that have a talent and find a way to open them up and get them to give their
and
themselves.
again, you should never be too scared of learning. I think even that's the same for artists, producers, and everything, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's the beauty of collaboration. Is like, for me, it's all about learning, and I think leave your ego at the door. There's always something you can learn from.
That's the first line I give to every band that walks through my door, especially original bands that are looking to kind of become something.
100%.
It's like, hey, we're all here to work on the same thing.
Yeah.
And that thing is the focus.
Yeah.
Everybody just, you know, leave your shit at the door.
Exactly.
Come in with an open mind. Don't be afraid to ask me questions. Don't be afraid to turn me down with my suggestions.
100%.
Just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's super important.
Totally.
But you guys have been doing a great job down here. I've seen nothing but, you know, constant work flow through here, which is great.
Well,
I'm
thank
happy
you,
to see that.
Yeah, it's good fun for sure. You know, it's good fun to like I say, you never know, like exactly how you say, you never know who's gonna kind of turn up next week and blow your socks off, sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
So yeah, Carl, as well as talking about you know, we talked about collaborating and stuff, and it's kind of a question that has always come up each interview that I've done. So you're at Hamiltonian all your life, right? You've born and raised Hamilton.
That's right.
So have you seen like have you seen the music scene change, especially the live music scene? How's it changed, and what do you think since? Because I know COVID and the pandemic changed a lot for a lot of music scenes around the world. But how have you seen Hamilton change, and what do you think that now, 4 years post-pandemic, what are the problems with the scene, and how, if you were in charge, I always say is if you were in charge, what would you, where would you focus the change or to make it better?
Yeah, that's a pretty loaded question. I mean, okay, so let's say at the ground roots of it all, back to what we talked about at the start of this conversation, is that it was much busier in the 2000s, in the early 2000s. So part of this is a little biased because of my age and what I've gone through, but I'm trying to explain this to you in a way that makes sense. So when I was in my late teens, early 20s, again, myself and a bunch of my friends were in bands, and that was a thing, you know, and this is kind of like just after the internet we were all just keeping busy doing things we loved. And that translated into our friends coming out to see us play, and then their older brothers and sisters and their friends come out to see you play. So bars were rammed to see music, you know, coming out of the Hess Village scene back at that time, where you walk down that street and every second bar would be a band. You know what I mean? Like 6 or 7 bars with bands in them. You know? In Hamilton, like so that is an aspect. The amount of clubs that are open that are serving up live music, as well as bands doing it and drawing. So then fast forward now, I'm 45. So, you know, 25 years later, that demographic of young people getting together and making rock bands and celebrating it with their friends and their older brothers and sisters isn't happening. At least not even to a percentage that would compare.
And do you think that's like it's a social change in like people's, I don't know, music tastes? So like, you know, I know that the rock bands a bit.
I think it's also just the internet.
We also had guests on that talk about even like, you know, even like the economic state of things as well.
Oh, for sure. Like that's
People going
again,
out.
the bars aren't doing it as much because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
People aren't coming out as much as they used to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the smartest things that the bars are doing now with COVID started is doing the shows earlier.
Yes.
Because I think it's important to keep your dinner crowd trying to,
Yeah.
because that was always missed for
Yeah.
years. But again, it didn't really matter then.
Yeah.
All shows
People-
started at 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's
Yeah.
insane, right?
Yeah,
And it would work.
And
you know?
people tend to, I think, like you said, if people are only going out, once or twice a week instead of 3-4 times a week now, I think, yeah, like you said, probably latching onto that kind of dinner crowd is probably more people like to get together for a meal or something, try a new restaurant, and that's probably where your audience is right now. It's
Yeah, I think
different.
it's important for venues to have, great service, a great menu, and great musicianship. And I think that people should pay for it. I also
Yeah.
am a big pusher on there being a door charge for music. I don't think that any club or bar should ever, not have a door fee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the reason for it isn't just because even if they can afford it, I think it just sets a standard for the respect
Yes,
of
the musicians,
the artistry.
and everybody around.
Just
it, yeah.
that, there was, whatever, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was somebody, maybe don't even talk about this. We'll just cut that. I don't want to sound negative.
That you're not sounding negative. It's
Well,
not-
the idea of free music tonight,
Yes.
it's like that pisses me off.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's not fucking free.
undervalues
You
it,
know,
right?
it's
yeah.
like there's nothing free about an
yeah,
artist,
the
a
band's
musician
paying for
coming
the
up.
rehearsal time.
There's so much to it,
Yeah.
and we don't got to go down the rabbit hole about what it is because we all know, and those who don't know. But I think the importance about it is the fact that there's a respect there for somebody that's out there sticking their neck out to play. And yes, it's business, and they can choose to do that. And you can be a background person, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that 9 o'clock there should be a $5 fee on the bill,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. I
Yeah.
believe in that. I've always pushed that.
Yeah.
Any of the venues that, but if they don't, I'm not saying that anybody has to do that. They pay your musicians well. It's not about that. I play venues that don't do a cover that pay me well, but I just saying I think the big picture, if everybody just got that under their belt, it
Yeah.
would make it easier for the venues to pay for the artists and easier for the artists to ask for more money
Yeah.
that they deserve.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's not directly coming out of the bar's pocket.
Totally, yeah.
And everybody can afford $5. And if you
yeah,
got 50
it's like
people
a coffee,
in a bar,
right? Yeah, if you're gonna spend like $11 on it and a pint of beer or something like that, surely $5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about just like little cover duo, not full band stuff. It should be
Yeah.
$15. It should be $20.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
if you don't want it, then go somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
totally,
Go someplace that
totally.
isn't having live music.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's. I've also seen like because this is I think a new thing maybe since the pandemic, and it's something I've seen more over here in Canada. But even like pay what you can kind of shows,
Yeah, it's
especially at
great.
the minute, is like I think that's such an open way of saying like even to students or anybody that's maybe not got that extra cash to kind of spend. It
Yeah.
kind of takes the pressure of all my buddies are going to this show. It's $20 to pay or whatever. It's like
It's bringing the value to the fact that this is important to somebody,
Yeah.
and whatever you can do helps. And
Yeah.
just the notoriety of putting that in your mind.
yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. It's a very good point. you
yeah,
know.
100%.
If nothing at all, then
Yeah,
pay what
that's
you
the
can.
thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I suppose it's a little bit like, being British is like tip culture doesn't exist to us, but it's like it's kind of like to me as having a tip jar. It's like if you're that pay whatever you can is a similar sort of concept really in the way. It's like it's you don't have to pay the full ticket price, but even if somebody puts $1 in, it shows that you appreciate like what you're listening to, right? If that's all you got.
If I can ask you, I know you're
Yeah.
interviewing me, but
Yeah, totally.
what would you say from where you're from has changed in the music scene?
I think
from-
I think it's probably a little bit different. It's quite similar to what's happened in Hamilton. So COVID has changed everything. I think around the world, of course, and venues and people just don't have that kind of cash to go out. But also, I do feel like in Canada there's a lot more, probably same with the US, but music's still kind of appreciated a lot more, and I played the covers gig for like 6-7 years prior to coming here, so I get it, but it's kind of like nobody seems that open to original music as much, especially in like your blue collar towns back home sort of thing. Everybody just wants to scream Mr. Brightside at, you know, after 10 pints of beer or something like that. So I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I don't know if it's just a me thing, but that's what I've found, is especially like original music, and it's such a slog to kind of try to do it. And even back to the whole Spotify argument and things like that, you know, it's tough for bands to just keep things going, I think, especially, you know. And this is what kind of, moving to Hamilton, I love the buzz of like, there's a community trying to, and I always tell everybody that is the sole purpose of me starting Tones of the Hammer, is the idea of just trying to get that cohesion as a community. You know, everybody wants to try and do stuff, and exactly like you say, it's not all about competition. You know, it's kind of the whole idea of if somebody's putting something on, we'll just support it. You know, it's help them out in a way. You're not losing business by them trying to do something. You know?
Sure.
And
like absolutely. I mean, even like, you know, for example, like at venues that I play, like I always tip out the staff, and I tip pretty well.
Yeah.
And they're always super surprised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, you're working, you're serving us. You're like, and I think that kind of appreciation thing really goes forward on many levels. Yeah. Because it just goes to show, it brings value to the artist there too. I think. Yeah. It brings value to me.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, like this guy's here, he's doing his thing, he's working, and he's appreciating what I'm doing. He's bringing a light to the room.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, that whole, you know, super paid forward thing, like you're saying, helping people out. It's not just music related, you know. It's all across the board on appreciation. I think is what it comes down to.
All around,
And you know, so whether it's you and your buddies that are going out to see a friend of yours that's doing, you know, a solo gig at you know, Casbah or whatever, like you get to as many of those things as you can. I've spent my time being at as many venues as I can since I was a kid. To support artists that I work with and friends that I have and people that I want to get to know. You know, and but no, I totally agree with you.
And what's your thought? Because you mentioned you're in a Pearl Jam cover, you know, tribute show, whatever. And I know there's people that are staunch, like they feel like cover music tribute bands are totally ruining the industry, which I think music is music, and if people enjoy it, you know, the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are on their last legs, I'm sure, soon. And I want to hear their music forever, sort of thing.
I think there's plenty of places for you to go and enjoy what you want to enjoy, so you can pick and choose. I mean, like if a venue that you enjoy is playing tribute bands and you like to be there, but you don't enjoy the tribute bands, like what can I tell you? It's the same as going to see a cover band that's playing a plethora of you know, cover songs that you may or may not like. I think it all comes down to choice. I mean, as far as, you know, targeting for as a musician, it's a way for me to honor a band that I enjoy, that I do pretty well at. And I think that part of what I do well at is bringing people together like-mindedly to celebrate that thing. And that's all that I'm focused on doing is that niche market. I promote it that way, and as long as we're kicking ass and we get out there and doing our best to, you know, make everybody's dollar value worth it when they spend their $30
having
for
a good
ticket,
night, right?
That's what it comes down to for me. I think that the tribute thing is great if people are you know, tributing the music. I think sometimes it gets carried away with the whole dress up thing. And I think that's where it can get a little crazy.
Is your tribute kind of more just a tip of the hat sort of to
totally? It's a Pearl Jam tribute band. But we're all our individual selves. And we just bring what we bring to the table and
to see
how we see the songs. You know, super high energy, heavy hitting. And we pay tribute to the music. And to the band. We don't, you know, but every you know, genre is different. If you go see a Zeppelin tribute and they're dressed up, like that demographic enjoys seeing that feeling of, you know, oh my God, I'm watching Zeppelin. Where PJ fans are going to be like, these guys are losers. Like, why are they dressing up with a wig and this and that? It would never work. You know what I mean? Like, truthfully, it just, and as a fan, I know that. So again, I pick my spaces well with what I'm doing. I think it all comes down to the packaging. I think it's easy for people to say that, you know, there's a lot of people who are not very creative. They're like, oh, you know, fucking covering, you're just copying people. It's like, you have no idea that I put out 8 records of original music. That's or what I've done in my day. But and I don't care to even be expressive about that stuff.
Yeah.
Again, more focused on what I'm doing, how I'm packaging it, who I'm reaching.
Yeah.
And you know, that I'm financially taking care of myself doing this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a means to it. It's
Yeah.
not ripping off the bands. It's celebrating the bands. It's selling more PJ records. It's getting people to more Pearl Jam shows who otherwise had never heard half of that back catalog they wouldn't listen to.
Yeah.
Like,
100%. I've seen it, and I've had people come up to me and tell even like Beatles tributes. So the big one is like the bootleg Beatles back in the UK, and they are, you know, people said it's literally like listening to John and Paul. You know, they've got all the amps, all the guitar sounds, everything. You know, and I think, you know, if that opens to, because to me the Beatles seem like other dimension, because it, you know, it's far before my time, and you totally missed, you know, Beatlemania or whatever. And I think if somebody can like experience the excitement of like you know, even a pinch of that excitement through a tribute band, you know, go along, you know, because at the end of the day, a lot of the time music has different reasons for so many different people, right? And if it takes you away to like a certain, you know, a certain feeling that you wanted to experience, you know, that's what it's all about.
With other
right?
people.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
the main thing, is the togetherness aspect that people always forget about when they're so, you know, going off on tangents about how shit this is and how dumb that is. It's like, you realize that there's a, you know, huge group of people coming together, experiencing great things,
enjoying music,
you're just forgetting about that. Like we're just talking about the little nitpicky things that you don't like. It's like, it's a joke to me, you know? So I don't focus on those things. I just focus on what I'm doing and making sure that I'm taking care of the things around me, like the venues that I'm working with, and the people that are coming out to the shows. And that's my job, right? Totally. That's what my job is.
So to answer the question, like in that, I guess that I just asked. So would you say it's down to people's attitudes changing a little bit more to build a scene a little bit more?
Well, I think as far as the original scene goes, it's a lot tougher. I think a lot of people maybe have kind of given up a bit. You know. And again, I don't think that there's that evolution of the young people as much that I've seen coming through, that a lot of us older gentlemen and women in the city that are working towards making things happen and writing music. The next generation of wave isn't really happening to the same level. So that's going to change the dynamic and the demographic of the city. You know, like you got Casbah left, I think the Doors pub downtown. Is that still open?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Heard of that one.
But there's very few venues that are celebrating original music. You know, and even at our heyday, there was only 3 or 4 venues, right? So, but yeah, I think it just comes down to, unfortunately, these days, the passion has to exceed, which is always really, it should be in the start anyways. The passion has to exceed, you know, the business aspect if you really want to try and establish yourself, because you have to
100%.
push and hustle to grab that attention from all those people and then deliver them something that they can take with them and want to come back to. And I think that's a lot of people just don't want to do the work anymore, right? And so
I feel like anybody getting into the music business these days to become rich is they're totally delusional about what it is these days.
Even in my time, we were probably the last of generation of being able to do that, where people would come out and see you and be like, hey, we're gonna sign you, and you, I mean, whatever, rich is what for moments until you put it all back anyways. But at the end of the day, it's a tougher go. But I mean, I think that I believe in it. I believe in the music. I believe in Hamilton. I believe in everybody trying to better themselves and to, you know, like yourself 100%. Doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing what you're doing with the podcast, and again, it's just forward thinking together in this stuff.
Totally,
that is what it all comes down to. And if you really want something and you want people to notice it, then you got to work for it, and that will show people that you give a shit, that you're the real deal. You know,
totally. So another thing that's always come up on other interviews as well is the effect of things like streaming and stuff. And I know we've touched a little bit on the idea of several income streams and stuff. But yeah, what's your general thoughts on like how, you know, stuff like Spotify is affecting, you know, local artists? We talked about a little bit of you know, the lack of luster to become an original artist and maybe flick to covers. What's your thoughts on
I
that?
feel like all that is more of a factor to people that are maybe like artists that are, you know, making serious moves, playing bigger gigs, and where there's money left off the table.
Yes.
I don't think that, for me, being that person who is a local artist that has a, you know, okay fan base, but just in town, like, you know, like people across Canada don't know my music. So I, at some point you have to evolve with the roll with the punches of the evolution of the industry, and it's a tool for me now to reach other people, more people than I would have, and it's because it's of no charge to them if they have Apple Music or whatever. I'm still accessing more people through that. So for me, so even if I bought 50, which I have, I got boxes of CDs at home from the bands that I had, from the 2000s, like. Because you sell so many and then you rebuy it. So you're just constantly reinvesting yourself. So you're never really making money, let's face it. But whatever, it keeps things afloat.
Marketing material,
keeping things afloat. Yeah. So I think now it's saved me from spending $800 on CDs. I'm saving money and I'm getting my music out there and I'm performing shows. Well, I mean, like at the end of the day, merchandise is where you're going to make money, but you have to have a product to sell merch to. So, at the end of the day, if I'm going to be writing music and getting it out to people and they're really digging it and I'm playing a show somewhere, they're going to come out and they're going to check it out and they're going to enjoy it and they're going to buy some stuff that I'm selling, or at absolute least pay the $20 at the door that I'll be getting in my pocket. And I think it all comes down to how you package and market yourself. So for me, the Spotify, the whole, that industry, it's unfortunate to see that the artists don't get money directly from it. I will always feel that way, but I think it really depends on where you stand. So anybody in my position that's really losing their mind and freaking out over that, I think it's kind of hilarious because what would you make anyways? Like this 500 people, $500 you're missing out. What are you missing out on? Like at that point, you should be worried more about building an audience and getting 3,000 people that you're losing out on. Not, have something to be pissed out about. Be pissed off that you're missing out on $5,000 from 5,000 people.
That's such a good way to look at it.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'd rather have 5,000 people listening to my music that aren't paying for it, that are coming out and supporting shows that I'm doing because I'm getting off my ass to do them. Than just to be at home pissed off that I'm not making 20 cents off
of a stream.
I don't know. So it depends on everybody. Now, again, if it was like, 10 million downloads and I'm missing out on that because of the work that I've built in this industry that I've been into and I've paid my debts and this record company and everything else, and then fuck man, that sucks. Like I'm losing out on a huge income here. So again, I really think it has to do with where you are in your career and what that means to you, how you use that tool or how it works against you. Or
totally, that's a good way of looking at it. Because like again, I came from that kind of generation where CDs were just on the way out when I started becoming an artist. So like first EP I ever released, I got like 1,000 CDs, probably sold like 80 of them. And they sat in my mum and dad's wardrobe for the next 10 years or so after that, Yeah, absolutely. But exactly like you say, you've probably seen that difference of, at the end of the day, like you say, even selling CDs, you might make some profit of it, but it's still only a marketing tool to sell your kind of, your brand. And exactly like you say, I've never looked at it in that way of, you don't have to pay for that anymore. What is it, $20 to upload a song or something like that, rather than 500 for 100 CDs.
Oh man, that was always the worst. Like, we got to rebuy. I was like, oh my god.
Exactly. For the little
and then
bit.
That you're buying those and like, like that time we should have just been left to sell out and leave it be, right? But you keep investing in yourself, you keep forward thinking and whatever. Sometimes you get stuck with CDs and sometimes you sell them all, but at the end of the day, you're still doing it. And even that stuff just shows people you're serious about yourself.
Totally, totally.
Like there's an element about it all. I think that comes down to whether it's us reinvesting in ourselves at the studio that shows that we're serious about what we're doing and we're not coasting through, or what have you, just that constant hustle and
and exactly like
and,
you say, it's always a choice. If if it's a tough industry, the music industry. If it's not for you, get out of it. There's plenty of other jobs around. Sort of thing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, for sure.
It's a tough hustle.
There's not a lot of room for not being good at what you do in this industry. I don't think, because you'll be broke.
Sink to the bottom.
You'll be fast.
Totally. Yeah. And even like again, rounding up to again like what we were saying, even if you do like that that technical skill or whatever, bringing something out, having a special talent to bring something out of somebody and make something great is
my whole world is based on people that are amazing and better than me around me.
Yes.
You know, like I think that is what really keeps me on my toes is just being around really great,
Yeah.
people first, and then
Yeah.
obviously musicianships and all that stuff. I just constantly get inspired by people around me, and it's important to me to have that
Great. Yeah.
in my life, because otherwise things would get stale quickly,
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
and I don't think I'm the best at what I do by a long shot.
Yeah.
But I definitely keep trying.
Great, yeah,
and,
that's it, man, and that's all you can ask of anybody. Yeah,
Exactly,
I think that's
exactly.
the same for all of us as well. And on that a little bit, Carm. Then what's back to your either musical inspiration. So what's a lot of stuff that you listen to when you do make music? What do you listen to? And also when you are producing music or making music, what's your kind of inspirations in that department?
Geez, I don't know, man. I mean, like that's super wide.
Open
I
question, yeah.
grew up listening to, like, the Beatles, the Doors, Zeppelin, Pearl Jam, Chili Peppers, Sublime. Then I got into more singer-songwriter stuff in my 20s. But huge feat from great albums.
Yeah.
I think that's always been, of all the bands that I love, the things I love them the best are the albums that I love from front to back.
100%, yeah.
Obviously,
100%.
yeah, you love the band, the shows are great,
Yeah.
if you get the chance to see them.
Yeah.
But that artistry is something that I'll always hold dear
Mm-hmm.
to. I think that's also talking about the evolution of the music business. That's something that's kind of lost now, is the form of an art where you get something tangible.
Yes.
Although LPs are back, which is great, and I've been back for a while
Yeah.
now. But having something that you can look at and read, and like that was just part of
100%.
the artistry and the
that, I suppose
magic.
that's the value as well of it values your music when you've got like that. If you've got a record to play, you kind of want to treasure it as that piece of art, right? And also I think with this whole like the whole TikTok generation of like whacking singles out and different stuff like
10
that.
seconds.
Yeah, and I think I think for anybody, again, like you said, it's a serious artist, is now coming back into that fold of like album work, because people either want to send a message or they want to promote, so they want to share something that has a bit more artist.
I think it all comes down to being really great at what you do. Like if you have a 10-second clip of a super great hit of yours that goes viral, and you got an album to back it up, that's a piece of art.
Yeah,
then you're fucking laughing. It's like, you know what I mean? It all comes. So there's that fast grab thing or whatever, but the true artists of the world will always have legs to stand on, based on their work and their creativity, and that they stand alone.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that, and I think that the hard work really always pays off. That's an old cliche, but that some of those little TikTok clips that go viral are just nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably more than not.
Yeah.
But some of them are even like maybe even clips of like an old Marvin Gaye clip or something, where it's like, these people don't, that generation don't know that music, and then they go and search it out, and then, I don't know, man. Like, again, I just think it all comes down to them being tools.
Yeah,
it's just like you have to kind of embrace a lot of these things. You can judge them and stay away from them and not like them. What's your goals? If I get a band that comes in the studio that says, I want to create a song that I can go viral on TikTok, then we'll just sit there and work on a super great hit the best we can, and get the best out of what they're doing. Put it out, and as long as they know the value and the hustle of how to get it out there, how to market it, how to package it, what days of the week are supposed to post it, and all this stuff.
Totally,
it's like
dude,
there's so much to it now.
Yeah,
right?
there is.
But which avenue do you want to go?
Yeah, totally. I love that attitude though, of just like whatever you want to do it, but understand the.
There's magnitudes of every aspect. You can shoot yourself in the foot from a market. If somebody at my age put out a record and was focusing on TikTok, I'm not sure that would really do much for anybody. I'm pushing 50 years old here, so what sense does that make? I mean, a lot of my 50-year-old friends are all on TikTok.
50-year-olds on TikTok these days.
I mean,
who knows?
I'm currently not using the tool, right? So I don't know what's best, in all honesty. But I know that it's there, and I know the values of it, and I know what it means for younger artists, and to. I think even one of the ways that I learned about the importance of TikTok was I was working with this marketing friend of ours, and it was like apparent to us that Leah Rosinski, by the way, who does great work, that there's like fads going on where you should attach this song to your clip. because it's currently,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, mind blowing. Like, okay, I would never know about any of that. But interesting enough, a tool that was there for us to attach to something that had nothing to do with that music, which we didn't really do much of, but we did it. So I should be thinking this way too when I'm doing stuff that's outside of the box and not to do with my music or the PJ thing or whatever, and want to get. Wasn't that the whole point of putting things out there, is to get people to pay attention to it? So whatever is presenting itself to do that with you and for you, you should probably learn, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, again, learning as you go and by the people around you, and So I mean, I think all that stuff is it's all overwhelming.
It's just a change, right? It's just a new change.
If you were to ask me, these questions about just the PJ thing opposed to my solo artistry stuff, opposed to the studio, they would all have a different recipe of the approach.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still like a separate sort of entity in itself because, again, like you say, it's just that tool of marketing, right? It's just that tool. Because exactly how you've said, each product, each song has its own, like, strategy, I guess, to be marketed, right? And like you say, it's a great tool that some kid in some rural part of the US or Europe or whatever can suddenly hear a song that they wouldn't have heard before it was there, right? So I think it saves you having to book a gig in a nowhere town in the middle of Utah or something like that, right, to play a show. So it's a great way to put it for sure. So coming up then, Carm, what's the plan with what's the plan with the studio? So we've got the new console and stuff. So we're just any exciting projects and stuff coming up? Or?
Yeah, we've got a few of our regular artists that have come through, and that's kind of just stay loyal to coming through and recording music when they're ready to do it. That are booking up over the next few months. As far as the long haul, it's more to be discovered as it comes, right? Like we're excited to get the board to sing as much as it can,
find its strengths
and learn about it. Yeah, it's a learning curve as much. I mean, I've been engineering for 25 years, so I know my way around any board really if I have a few minutes to look and so that's a non-issue for us there, but the character and finding the sweetness of things is which mics resonate well with it, and like what's I'm already finding that some of the space from the mics is interesting in the reception of the audio. Yeah. So where I would normally tight mic something or whatever, I'm gonna either pull it further.
Totally, you're getting more of that.
It's some more like it's got more air feel. Like there's some more space in this board.
Interesting. Right?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm not used to it yet. Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so I go closer. I'm like, that's a clip, and it's not clipping, and there's more, and it's like, so learning, growing, booking,
love it, man,
and rocking it out.
I love it. Yeah, that's exactly like you say. Even with that, and I think even when you've worked on a board like that, coming to Halo is my first time using a analog console to that extent. It's like I've used
and beautiful board.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's one of those things you get spoiled because everything that you do digitally after that just sounds terrible. I hate it because I know that it doesn't sound terrible, but you get so tuned into these things, right?
Absolutely
of the sound. But even exactly like you say, even like a year on or whatever, you still learn something new about how it reacts to something, or like a strength that perhaps you didn't realize was in the board. And usually it's by making a mistake or pressing the wrong button at the wrong time, something amazing comes out, right? So I love to play in the studio essentially, because that's all we do is really as producers, we just play around and see what works, right? And it's a magical thing.
And speaking of sharing artists, actually, there was a Genesis tribute band that's been doing some work at our place that came down to work with you recently.
They have.
And they had so many great things to say about you.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear. Yeah, we did 23 minutes of Genesis. 23-minute song. It's actually Genesis's longest song. Supper's Ready.
Those guys are the only guys I know that will go at the crate. We always have this ongoing joke about, okay, what's the hardest thing you guys put yourself through today?
I can promise you it's that.
I really commend them for it too. Talk about, people challenging themselves and getting the best out of themselves.
100%, and just having fun as well with it,
Totally, and not taking it too serious. Yeah. And just doing a good job with it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
But I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. And of course, using the SSL here, that's kind of what Phil Collins and all that sort of use. That was me geeking out on that side of it.
Mashing up tones and sounds. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's a great challenge, right?
Yeah,
For
100%.
you, talk about, where you could look at the aspect and be like, no one would ever say, oh, well, you're trying to be a copy of the engineer, like they would about a tribute artist or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
For you, it's another way to look at how to achieve something that's in front of you, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting to me, that stuff. When people are like, hey, I kind of like want to get this snare sound or whatever. Like, okay,
exactly.
Let's get in there. Let's figure it out, right? What mic, what sound, and But again, and I think it has to do with the fact that I enjoy what I do, and that the challenges don't fear me.
Exactly.
And I think that's important to be willing to take chances and try a 23-minute song.
100%. And that's it. And it's I think even back to, I'm a big believer that mistakes are the best learning curves you can do. And I think even about even like audio engineering legends now. You've got this stuff with Led Zeppelin's recording engineer of like micing drums up in John Bonham style and stuff. It's all due to mistakes that the engineer made, and they were like, oh fuck, that sounds really good.
He's a genius.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe Hamilton's the next. We'll hope Hamilton's the next one where we can fly out something legendary like that.
For sure. So, well, there's a lot of great artists in Hamilton, that's for sure. A lot of bands.
There sure is. There sure is, and I think it's constantly. I've again, as a newbie to Hamilton, I see just. If that cohesion just keeps happening between people, there's some really, really talented people around.
It will. I mean, it's been a mainstay in the city for decades and decades. And I have faith in the city. I have faith in the music scene. I have faith in the younger generation too. I think that it'll kind of come back. I really do think that there's going to be an era soon that where all these kids will be back. There's a couple young guys that we did a camp for a few years ago. Actually, I just saw one of the young guys, Peter, at one of my gigs on last Wednesday, and he's part of that generation that's doing things, and has the passion, and you can see him just sitting there watching, tapping his foot, excited about what like that. It's not as prevalent, but it's there, and again, I have faith that it'll grow.
100%. And I just always think, what a time to be like. Getting into music with, the fact of like, probably before my time of getting into music, but I can't imagine what it was like in, the 90s or like 80s, trying to, even something as simple as a recording interface to record a guitar into a computer or something, I can't imagine what it was like to try and save up for like a little 2-track, 4-track recorder or something, and
so tough, man.
Be able to record yourself. And now, to have access to something like GarageBand or Logic, and, to be able to have
your cell phone,
exactly,
right?
Your cell phone. Yeah. I love the attitude today, Carm, of just like you say, using it as tools. It's never a bad thing. It's just getting used to a change, right?
And putting it where it needs to be.
Yeah, totally. And to me, even like with plugins and stuff, to be able to have, although it's so lucky to use something like an SSL board, the fact that you can buy a $30 like plugin that emulates it is just incredible.
It is. And you can overuse that stuff too. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times I've put a bunch of things in a strip and I've been like, bypass. Yeah. Like, here it is.
Sounds better. Yeah.
Sometimes we get a little bit wrapped up in the
technical side
and options. And we live in an options world. Apple Music, how many things you want to listen to, and Netflix, and there's a million movies, and everything's just and then you go through your Pro Tools drop down menu, and it's like, oh, what do I want to put on this thing? It's like, so the idea of having to use things is not always
taken away is more creative sometimes, right?
Yeah, my favorite thing when speaking from my best experience, was just the Neve, because we just got this board and we just started working. Like, the board sounded so great, and when you had a great musician in there, with a really well-tuned drum kit or whatever, and you just chose some good mics, and it was just like musician, mic, preamp.
Yeah. You
like
don't have
nothing,
to do anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Had a little master bus compressor that would just, and it was just like, and it was really, for me, I think the best way to learn as an engineer how to get great sounds, because it was super organic.
Yeah.
And like, it sounded the way it sounded in the room, in the control room, and then, yes, of course, once you start dropping things over top and you have to place things and you have to use these tools to make separation happen, and that's where that stuff starts to happen. But I always felt, because of that process and because of how the Neve blew my mind, that I always was less is more from the freaking start, because 100%. It was like, how do we keep it as cool as this is sounding without fucking with it too much, So yeah, I think that we're gonna find that magic with this new console once we get there.
100%. I can imagine that. It's one of my favorite books that I've always read is Bobby Ozinski's the Mixing Engineer's Handbook. He does all these different handbooks for music and to everything, to acoustic treatment and everything. But that's exactly what he says is like your first line of defense with getting a good drum sound, a good guitar sound, is getting a good guitarist and a good drummer, right? To be able to and then even before, a good drummer will make a badly tuned drum kit sound good with just one or two mics. Right?
I've heard people do that with a detuned piano.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen guys play a detuned piano. You can't even hear it.
And that's what. When it's the right song, that's what drives me crazy when people stress about that stuff. One of my favorite tracks for piano like that is Ooh La La by The Faces. And it's just like the piano, it's obviously this beaten up piece of shit, but it sounds so great because they're just using it as like a honky tonk jam kind of like piano, right?
And it's in around the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And with all this technological ability to get perfection, it's amazing. This is why everybody's striving towards analog gear a lot more now. It's because they want those they want that hiss from the from an old tube preamp or something like that. It's what creates that magic of those classic tracks.
And I think that all that stuff's a lot more unforgiving to use as well, because you have to put good stuff through it, so it's not as, forgiving as these plugins and stuff that you got to kind of, make things safer and more comfortable to listen to, where it's like, the buzzes and the hisses and the stuff, it's all there to be used with. And
100%.
I mean, I totally agree with that.
That's why I hope that kind of recording of like the 60s and stuff's coming back, where we mic up John Bonham's like squeaky pedal and all that sort of stuff. It's
that's
rocking.
right.
It sure is. Well, Carm, thank you so much for coming down.
Total
pleasure,
man.
Appreciate your time.
It's great to meet you in person.
And you, and it's been good to
wish you guys here at Halo all the greatest successes.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, because you're obviously doing great things in the city.
Thank you. And you guys at 410 soon. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time we see each other and work together.
Well, you'll have to come up to the studio.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. And anybody that's watching this, be sure to check out Carm's studio, 410. In Hamilton. And where can we find it on socials, and you on socials, Carm, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm at Carm_410 on Instagram. At Leash Band, the DJ tribute. At Studio 410 Recording. So we're out there. It's all over the place.
That's it. It's all over there. So be sure to check it out if you're not. Be sure to subscribe to Tones of the Hammer if you have not subscribed already. And we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Support this guy supporting Hamilton. This is great stuff.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.